Snacking can have quite large implications on our health, from the long-term implications such as high risk of diabetes or really a lot of diseases that can then lead to mortality, to the short-term implications such as a fluctuation or lack of energy throughout your day or lack of motivation. So in this video, I'm going to explore snacking, and I'm going to give you 6 reasons why you may want to consider not snacking or snacking less in the day, and stick to the end to find out some top tips to help reduce this, some things that I personally implemented into my day. Let's get started. Hello, my name is Dr. Steven Hulme, and I'm a chiropractor currently based in the Oxfordshire area. And this video will be looking at snacking. So snacking is something that I have changed in my life in about a few months ago, as a result of learning a few things about it, but particularly after learning about what happens to our blood sugar when each time we eat, and so particularly when we're snacking. So I've now gone from eating multiple times a day, so having my 3 main meals, as well as eating snacks throughout the day, to now only eating at specific times in the day, and it will only be a maximum of 3 times. So you can actually have this snacks that you may normally have, but just have it after your main meal if you are going to have it. And there's some ways that we can make this easier that I'll go through at the end. But let me go through the 6 reasons why you may want to consider not snacking and not eating as frequently throughout the day. I know that 6 meals a day was something that was recommended in the past. We now know this is really not a good thing. And the main reason is because of what happens to your blood sugar. So basically, each time you eat, particularly when you eat sugar and carbs, pretty much most meals are going to increase your sugar content in your blood. So we call that blood glucose. Each time you eat, it's going to go up. So we call that a spike. And we've seen associations with the higher the variability, or the more the variability, so that the higher the spike, so the more sugar at one time, and also then the lower the dip. So the more dynamic your blood sugar is, the more issues we can start to develop. And so starting with number 1, and this may be the most obvious one, we can actually increase our risk of diabetes. Each time you eat, you get glucose that enters into the blood. The body needs a certain level of glucose in the blood. If it's too low or too high, there can be some serious consequences. Luckily, we've got systems in our body that help to regulate the sugar levels. The main one, which you may have heard of, is insulin, that gets released from the pancreas and basically clears out the excess sugar in your blood to maintain a constant level. Now, the more times we eat, the more insulin we're going to need, and this can actually lead to insulin resistance. If insulin is abused and is used in excess, the body can get to a point where it starts to resist this hormone, insulin, to a point where it's not having much effect, which means then you can start to get dangerous levels of sugar in your blood that can have some bad consequences. This is what we call type 2 diabetes, and people that get to this point, if they can't control it with their diet, end up having to take medication to almost force the body to reduce the sugar in the blood. This is not a situation we want to get to, but the one biggest way you can reduce that is by reducing the amount of times that you eat in a day, i.e. reducing the snacking. Now, number 2, it can increase your risk of disease. Now, the main reason why disease may be more likely with snacking is because if we have too much sugar in our blood, it can actually start to damage the cells in our body. Diabetes has 3 classic symptoms or diseases that can develop as a result of high blood sugar. The first one is issues with the eyes, where the sugar ends up damaging the arteries in the eyes that can, in bad and severe and uncontrolled cases, lead to things like blindness. It can then disrupt the arteries that then go to the nerves, like say, for example, on the feet, because it's the furthest away from the heart, they're more susceptible, and that can lead to numbness in the feet, and then kidney issues because it damages the cells in the kidneys. Now, theoretically, this could damage really any area of the body, and even there's even been reports of it leading to heart disease, and it will likely increase risk of cancer and various different things like that. So reducing snacking would give you much better, or make it much less likely that you'll then develop disease in the future. Number 3, it can decrease your energy. If you're somebody that lacks energy, and you wake up really tired or just feeling really rough or bad, or maybe you had that slump in the mid-afternoon where you just get really tired suddenly. There are many reasons why you may get this, but one of them may be because you're snacking or eating too regularly. If you're eating regularly and you're getting these high spikes and you're getting them regularly, your body can start to need it more and more, which means you may have to eat more and more, but also your brain is responsible for regulating your energy, and it's also responsible for keeping your blood sugar level by causing the release of insulin. If you're challenging that system too much, it's going to struggle to keep it at a constant level, which then can mean those fluctuations can just result in you just feeling more tired or having that lack of energy. A big misconception is that sugar actually gives you energy, but it actually doesn't. All it does is it increases your dopamine, which makes you feel good. So you might feel like you're a bit more energetic, but then you can have a slump later on. It also makes you want more sugar. So if you crave sugar or sugary things, it's probably because your body is used to having a lot of sugar. If you were to decrease the amount of sugar you have, decrease the amount of times you eat in a day, i.e. reduce snacking, you can actually stop these cravings and get to a point where you don't crave or want these things as much. Number 4, it can actually make you more hungry. As I mentioned previously, the more spice you have, the more your body gets used to having these regular spikes. Your body gets used to having regular food throughout the day, and when you then don't have that meal or you don't have a food at one part of the day, then you can then start to get a bit shaky or just lack a lot of energy or feel super hungry. You can get used to not needing to eat as often if you don't eat as often. There are some people that eat just one meal a day, but it is also important what you're eating in that meal, and that's going to make it a lot easier for you to get to the next one, and I'll go through this at the end. And number 5, it can decrease your mood and your quality of life. They did a piece of research on this where they saw an association between those that had a high glucose or blood glucose variability, so those being most dynamic spikes of your blood glucose, and their quality of life and their mood. Their mood was much more negative and they didn't enjoy life as much. Number 6, snacking can increase dental cavities. This is one of the common pieces of advice you might hear from a dentist or hygienist. And the reason why is because the more times you eat, particularly if it's sugary or if it's full of carbs, is that you're feeding the bacteria that will cause the cavities in your teeth. So this is another motivation for me personally, because I historically have had a lot of cavities. For some reason, I'm very susceptible to a lot of cavities. And so what I've now done is I'm very strict on only eating 3 times a day. Well, majority of the days. Occasionally on social occasions I might not do that, but majority of the times I only have 3 meals a day. And one of the motivations, not just only because of the things I've spoken about previously, but also because I know it's going to help my teeth, and it's going to make the cavities less likely, or at least occur not as fast. So what primarily causes these spikes? How do you get a really high spike? Well, the number one way of doing it obviously is eating sugar, because sugar will go directly into blood. It's in the form that the body needs it already, so it's very quick, and it will instantly spike your blood sugar. Things like fat and protein won't do that, because it needs to actually be converted to sugar, and that actually takes time. So this is one way you can actually help yourself to not need to eat as often in the day, is that when you do eat your meals, have meals that are high in protein and fat. This is one of the problems if you're on a low-fat diet, is that you're going to have less satiety, i.e. you're not going to feel as satisfied for as long. The beauty about fat and protein, because it can't be instantly converted into sugar, is that it's going to happen, you're going to get a sugar release more slow throughout the day into your next meal. So you can actually easily last your next meal if you have good quality food that is high in protein and fat. If you have a meal that is just very high in particularly refined carbs and then sugars, it will go into your bloodstream quite quickly. It's kind of like putting paper on a fire. You get this big fire, big flame, and then it dies down really, really quickly. Whereas if you put a big thick log on there, it will burn for hours and hours. It's releasing energy slowly over a long period of time. It's a similar thing with our food. Now, the other way of helping yourself to not snack, firstly, is to eat your breakfast as late in the day as possible. So it's otherwise known as intermittent fasting. This is also something that I've been doing more recently. And then eating your dinner as early as possible. So you have your eating window close together, so you don't actually have as much of a gap between your meals. The other thing you can do is you want to make sure you don't eat sugar or carbs on an empty stomach, because that means the sugar will go straight through into your body and then through into your blood, and it will spike your blood glucose really, really quickly. If you've got some fiber in there particularly, or fat or protein or something to slow down its transit, it will actually spike your blood sugar a lot slower. In fact, by simply eating your food in the right order can actually have a massive impact on your blood sugar. And I'm going to do a video on this more specifically in probably just a few weeks' time. So once that's out, you'll see that pop up just there. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found that more inspiring than scary to reduce snacking and be motivated to do that. For a long time, I didn't fully realize the implication to snacking. And it wasn't until I realized these things that I actually stopped it. I was motivated enough to stop it. So this is why I wanted to create this video, to help you to understand why snacking is maybe not a great thing. Now, what you can do if you enjoy snack type of foods like crisps or whatever, is if you want, you can still eat them. Just eat them at the end of a meal. So it's all in one sitting, rather than wait an hour or two and then eat something and then wait half an hour and eat something else. That's going to just get those continuous blood sugar spikes. It's not how we were really designed to function. Now, as always, if you like this type of content, then please do subscribe, and I will see you next week for a brand new video like this one. Have a good rest of your week. Bye-bye.